and I'm bringing to you an earlier edition of the live stream of stuff. Welcome. If this is your first time, thank you for joining in. If it's your last time, thank you for joining in. And as always, you have to bear with me for 1 second so I can actually turn on the live chat in Facebook. Because of default settings, I have to switch something around to make sure it's public, and that way if you are watching me on Facebook Live, you can chime in on the comments and I'll be able to see it live. There we go. So as always, just to let you know, I am on Facebook Live, I am on YouTube Live, and I am streaming on Twitch Live. The aforementioned is only recorded back to watch on Facebook and YouTube if you missed this program. So you can go back and watch on those. Twitch is live only, it does not record. So, but you can still join in and chat. You can chat on all three, whichever you prefer. On Twitch, my username is JohnnyMacX. Please subscribe to the channel there. You can find me with my full name on YouTube, John Turner-McClelland. Just Google, or search on YouTube. Don't Google my name. If you Google my name, it might take a while. You might find stuff you don't want to read about me. Or maybe you do. So feel free. So today, since it is an afternoon edition, we're going to talk about stuff post-lunch. And as always, let's start with some real estate stuff. Because once again, the hot topic this week, as last week, is mortgage rates increasing. And we're going to show you share screen. And you do always have to bear with me as I am sharing the screen because it is not instantaneous. I am using a program, once again, called Restream. They don't pay me to promote this, but just so you know, it is free. You can stream to multiple platforms at one time. It's very easy to use, so I recommend it. And sharing. Shared. All right, you should be able to see our CNN Business crisis clickbait. Mortgage rates jumping to nearly 4%, which means it's not 4%. Thank you, clickbait title. I did read through this earlier just to see where we were at. So the week ending, which actually ends today for their weeks, how their Freddie Mac calculates weeks. It's Thursday to Thursday. The average this week for the 30-year fixed has gone up to 3.92%, still steadily increasing. Last week was 3.69. And as they point out, this is the highest it has been since May of 2019, when we were at 3.99. So just keep in mind from that summer of 2019 through now, how low interest rates have been, which is partly to do with the pandemic. Excuse me. Pandemic related, because the Fed did not want us to go into a gigantic recession. So it brought the rates down below 3 at one point. January of 2021, which I will show you the chart here again in a minute, just for context, because just looking at these numbers doesn't really give you context other than what the author wants the context to be, which is, oh my God, it's almost 4%. Well, yes, we knew that was going to happen at some point. Regardless of inflation, you can't keep interest rates, mortgage rates below 3, in an economy that's as hot as ours is. All of the factors that cause inflation have been going off the charts, and hence we have inflation. It has nothing to do with a bad economy. It has to do with a super hot economy that needs to put the brakes on a little bit. Housing is one of those things that drives inflation. Housing, oil, cars are some of the top 3 things as far as consumer inflationary factors. But this is not a surprise to anyone in the real estate industry. It might come as a surprise to those of you who are thinking about buying or selling a home, because we don't do a good job of talking about it, which is why I'm talking about it now. So what the Fed is wanting to do, the Fed, puts out a broad federal funds rate that affects every rate for everything else. They don't determine mortgage rates, they determine the federal rate. And the federal rate being low is being increased, and they want to increase it by a full point by the end of the year 2022, which means when we were back a month ago or so at mortgage rates of under 3.5, by December of this year, you're going to be looking at interest rates at least 4.5, possibly higher. And what that does, it takes away some of the buying power of buyers, because it then makes your mortgage more expensive. You pay more in interest the higher the interest rate goes. It's, simple math. And just to give you an idea of what that does, just even a 0.5% increase, which we are getting close to. Actually, they've done the math down here for me, which I was going to show you on the calculator, but I don't have to. If you have a house that's listed at $375,000 and you were to buy that now versus when mortgage rates are, we'll say the mortgage rate today is 4, even though it's not. If it goes up to 4.5, you're going to be paying an extra $115 a month just in interest. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot, especially if you're in the house a long time and you do not refinance that loan. Obviously 115 times 12, that's $1,380 a year extra you're just paying the bank. That's $1,380 extra that you could have used to buy a house now versus buying a house 8 months from now, 10 months from now, which gives you $1,380 less leverage on buying that home, whatever your potential situation is. And let's say you stay in the home 30 years, which most people do not stay in a home 30 years. They don't go through the end of their mortgage. But $1,380 a year, if you never refinance that rate for 30 years, you're giving the bank an extra $41,400. That's some people's salary in a year. You're just handing the bank saying, here you go. Here's an extra 41 grand so I can live in this house for 40 years because I waited 8 months to buy that house. Something to keep in mind is still, we have been saying it's a seller's market. It is also a buyer's market. It is both because of these low interest rates. We still don't have available inventory enough to meet the demand of the buyers here in North Texas area, which is why prices have gone through the roof and homes are still getting 50, 100 offers sometimes and gone in 2 or 3 days because of this. But that doesn't mean with interest rates going up as they are that is going to slow down much. We just need more inventory pumped into the market at one time to equal out, which is not going to happen overnight. Even with builders building as quickly as they are, it's not going to happen. Quite frankly, the builders are taking advantage of high prices right now themselves. So, speaking of which, I was going to do a brief video on this later, which I still will. There's another realtor here in DFW on TikTok who brought up this very situation. Yesterday, she has a client who's looking for a $1 million home, but wants a brand new home, which, normally is doable, especially if you're in the $1 million range. But they were looking at basically buying or she was looking at purchasing the home in a master plan community. Now, the disadvantages and disadvantages of that alone gives you more variety in your homes. You're going to have several plans that the builder's going to go ahead and already have planned out to build. But at the same time, you may not be able to put as much custom build into your custom home. They have what is called spec homes, and they will have what is called custom. Now, if you're in a master plan community, that custom is just you going to the builder's studio, looking at a bunch of set additional options and upgrades that they can add to your price, and basically you're mortgaging, adding to the price of your home. So I went through this myself in 2007, back before the Great Recession, when they were giving away homes. Really giving away homes. They paid me to buy the house. I will say the builder was Beazer, because they're a decent builder. We go to Beazer's showroom after I've already agreed to buy a house. You go and pick out whatever you want to add on, because this was not already built house. This is one I was going to have built from the ground up. So and these are things talking about, okay, well, we're going to give you the most basic carpet that we have for this price. Do you want better carpet? And then they have grades of carpet, various price ranges that they can put in there. Now, depending on what kind of money you have and what time you have, yeah, you do want better than the basic carpet, but at the same time, do you want to mortgage your carpet? Maybe. It might, if you were like me at the time, I was a first-time home buyer, didn't have a lot of money, so I'm not, going to go back in, rip the carpet out, put in new carpet, because it probably would have cost me more in the long run. But at the same time, I was paying a little bit extra for better carpet, but also mortgaging that carpet is what you're doing. Same thing, they were wanting, like different tiles, different types of front door. They will ask you about blinds. I don't recommend you mortgage your blinds. I did not. They will have lovely options for blinds, the little, not the vinyl Venetian blinds, but, the normal, like wooden blinds that close and look great on your brand new home. Don't mortgage your blinds. You can buy blinds on your own, have them install them yourself. Things like that. And they will do this on $1 million homes too, just because they are in planned communities and these are the plans they have. So if you have a home buyer who is willing to shell out in a budget of $1 million, you may be able to go look at real custom builders. And I say real by you go buy a plot of land and you go find this other company to build you a house, and it's not in a planned community. And that's what I mean by real custom builders, because these builders, that is what they do. They custom build every house they put on the market. They don't have a giant master plan community. They're not all the builders that you see advertising, usually. There's quite a few here in the area too. And it may do you better to go ahead and check with them, depending on your budget, if you can buy a plot of land and have them build you a house. Because what the master plan community is doing right now, these builders are either intentionally slowing down building or not building enough, because they are allowing people to get on lists, several hundred people deep, bid on the homes once they're built. And then at that point, you're bidding on a spec home, which is, they call it spec. That's the ones that are just basic builds. Builder chooses what's in it. You don't even get to upgrade or decide to mortgage your carpet. It's already there. You get what you get. And normally those homes are a little bit cheaper because you're not upgrading it. But in a bidding situation, if you're coming in here outbidding somebody for a spec home, kind of like we're doing with existing homes, it may not benefit you either way. The only benefit there is it's a brand new house. But some of them are also doing full appraisal waivers for you to even do that, and then you don't even get to, make sure the house is worth what you're paying for it. That, if you do a full appraisal waiver, you will be paying whatever amount comes in above the bank's appraisal. If the bank determines it appraised at $300,000 and you offered $500,000, you better come up with $200,000 in cash real quick. So keep these things in mind when you're going out and buying homes. And as a reminder, real estate agents can represent you when you are buying new builds with builders. Just like any real estate situation, you're better off being represented by somebody, either it be a real estate attorney or real estate agent, to make sure you're going in there without going in blind. Because the builder will take advantage of you if they know that they can, various ways. Not everyone's not saying they're all crooked. But if you were in a disadvantage, if you were just shoved over paperwork this thick and go, here, sign that. Don't worry about what's in there. We need that signed in the next 10 minutes. And not being able to negotiate on price. Us as real estate agents can help you, walk you through the contracts. You're in no rush to buy sign the contract. If they're really in that rush, okay, and then they might have lost the sale that day. These guys are salesmen. They are not real estate agents at the builders. They don't have the same ethics laws they have to adhere to. They don't. The only thing they have to adhere to is Deceptive Trade Practice Act. So they can't deceive you, but they're not held to the same standard as a realtor. Things to keep in mind. Okay, let me stop sharing this screen about mortgage rates. See, nobody has any questions so far. Nothing in the chat. So I had this question last year, which I've only addressed briefly. Are we in a housing bubble? The answer, again, is no. It's not a bubble. It does not have the same traits, characteristics as a bubble normally does. It is not going to burst in the same manner. I'm going to show you some simple graphs that illustrate this, which just came out yesterday. I'll share these with you as well. And they even refer to them as simple. These are provided by Keeping Current Matters, something that I subscribe to. You can also go on my website, coopersellshomes.com, or even on my Facebook page. Go to on my website where there is a link for home tips blogs. There's a free blog for you to read on there, which shows you everything I'm showing you right now. So if you want a copy of this later to look at, they have daily posts from Keeping Current Matters for free on my website. There's also another blog on there from another vendor called Homekeeper. They do home tips about 3 times a week. And all of these are also reproduced on my Twitter page and as well as my Facebook page, which are also linked on my website. So if you want to go to those and read it that way, like my page, any of those, follow me on Twitter. You might get some extra bonus stuff on Twitter if you follow me. All the social links are down at the bottom of my website. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitch, and YouTube. Back to the housing bubble. This is the most interesting data that I've seen so far about this, the affordability of homes. And of course, affordability comes in multiple components, not just the price of the house, but how much wages you have and the mortgage rate at the time. And as you notice, it's 15 years ago. Prices were high, wages were low, mortgage rates were over 6. And that is true. I made okay money. And this is before I was a real estate agent. I was working in corporate America. I made a decent salary. More than most at my age. But actually, the home prices were not that high here in Texas. This is actually when I went to Beezer. They had a home listed at the time, 141 for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's really 3, but the 4th room was, could be either a 4th bedroom, dining room, or study. I made it a study. Depends on the door. That was the only difference. There again is your mortgaged upgrade. When I locked in my interest rate, which was a first-time home buyer's FHA loan, it was over 7%. I believe it was 7.25. And this was in 2007. Mainly because the mortgage rates were so erratic at that time. The day we locked it in was the day it went up. Keep in mind, a year ago, we were under 3%. So that same house at 15 years ago, if I were paying 3% versus 7%, you saw the difference just on a 0.5%, what, you're paying. Would have saved me a substantial amount of money. And I actually had to, while we owned that home for 10 years, I had to refinance twice to even get it down to near 4 to where it is today. So you had less ability to buy a home unless the builders, which in Beezer's case was pushing homes, giving them away. I say giving them away because back then, I had 0 down payment because the FHA had down payment assistance at the time for first-time home buyers. So the only money I had to come up with was at closing for buyers. The builder provided, I want to say, a $12,000 credit just to buy it. So at the closing, I ended up getting money back. I didn't even have, sit there and hand them a check. They were mailing me a check after funding. And I think I got back about $500 the way it all worked out in the end, which ended up buying me a refrigerator. And then you wonder why all these people foreclosed on their homes. I was one of the lucky ones and did not have an adjustable rate mortgage. I was a first-time buyer and was smart and used the FHA, which is also a fixed rate mortgage. Doesn't change. But there are disadvantages and advantages to that as well. So I didn't foreclose on my house. We actually sold the house 2017 for a profit. So we did good. But to this point, houses are cheaper now. You can see here's the percentage if you take into account principal and interest payment as a percentage of your income, because most people now make more money than they did, obviously, 15 years ago. Substantially more in some cases because wages rise. And you see here today, even compared to 2007, is much lower. Here. As you all know, mortgage standards were not where they are today. Again, giving away homes, pushing homes to people that we're not going to say their credit was terrible. It is considered poor if it's under 620. Even now, 620 is generally where you need to be to get a conventional mortgage. Some banks are higher. The FHA right now will take people that are at 580, but you're also paying mortgage. You have to be a first-time home buyer to do that. They will actually, secret that they don't like talking about, they will take someone with a 520, but you have to come up with a 10% down payment. But if you have a 520 credit score, it's probably unlikely you have a 10% down payment, and very unlikely you can afford a home, unfortunately, because of your debt. A lot of the problem is that if you have a lot of credit card debt, that is what you're putting your money towards mostly, trying to get that down. Compounded debt on credit cards is ridiculous. And trying to afford a house while you're dealing with credit card debt is very challenging for most people. Impossible for some. So that's why after the Great Recession, the standards were changed to where people with lower credit scores cannot get a mortgage. We don't want to put people in a situation where they're foreclosing on their homes and then they're out of a house. So it just makes it worse. The idea of homeownership is awesome. I recommend it. It's a great investment, but you have to be able to have the money to back it up. And I know that sounds harsh to some people, but it's true. And it's actually, you might get stuck renting for longer than you intended to. And just as caveat, we do still rent, our home currently for the last 3 going on 4 years. There's nothing wrong with renting. So, excuse me. Here again, here's your graph showing you the number of loans that were given out to people with a credit score below 620. Here's the Great Recession. Standards were changed. People were not buying homes. This is where it changed. Is there how many? Just looking at the graph itself is mind-boggling. And these are in billions. These are not small numbers. You take all this money here on people that these were being thrown into basically junk funds to resell on the market, which is what, if you watch the movie The Big Short, dealt with. Basically, what these mortgage companies do, they take all their debt, they throw them into one big package, tie it up in a nice little bow, and someone will buy it and invest in it. That's how they, keep the mortgage industry going. But when everyone defaults on the house and the house is no longer worth anything, that's when it affects the economy. That's the housing bubble. There's your pop right there. Here's your pop these 2 years. And then what happens? Foreclosures happen. Yeah, I didn't foreclosure. Get the word out of my mouth today. All right, I got my Russian bot for the day on YouTube. Thanks for the Russian bot comment. Not in Russian today. It's kind of weird. Here's your foreclosures. During said crash, at the worst in 2009, you have 1.1 to 2 million foreclosures every year. It affects the economy greatly. As I said, housing is an indicator of the economy. Housing affects inflation. Housing affects our consumer spending economy greatly. So if no one's buying houses, they're giving their houses away. Makes the economy even worse. And as you can see over the last 4 years and these 2 years here is the pandemic, nearly next to nothing in the way of foreclosures. That's total for 50 states. I'm assuming including DC. Average that out. How many per state? We'll do the average here. 2021, where those that might have, they probably entered the programs to keep them from being foreclosed on. Excuse me. 760 people in a state. It's nothing. Nearly nothing. They're in the forbearance programs. The banks are willing to let them get out of the programs and not take their house. And there's less than 800,000 of those people today still working out repayment. So even if all 800,000 were to foreclose today, which they're not going to, it's still not even close to what was in 2007. And more than likely, these people are not going to go into foreclosure. Meaning, somewhere in this neighborhood we might get, 250, 280, 300,000 homes at some point if they don't work it out with the bank. So there's not going to be a flood of foreclosures on the market, which is what people were sad to say, hoping for, because that would give them opportunity to buy more homes at lower rates if it goes to a foreclosure auction versus, selling a house. That being said, anyone in this situation, do not let your house foreclose. Sell your house because you have equity in that home. The past year, your equity is 20% greater than it was before. So do not waste it by foreclosing on your house. Sell it, take what you can. And again, back to inventory. We don't have a surplus of homes. We have a shortage of homes. Supply and demand dictation. And here's your graph. Now, if you've been on here enough, or you know this yourself, the traditional standard of explaining what a seller's market versus a buyer's market is, and in months of inventory. If nothing else went on the market today and stayed the same today, this is how many months it would take to sell every home that's on the market. Anything above 6 months is considered a buyer's market because there are more homes for sale than there are buyers here. This is when you could go in and negotiate for lower than list price sometimes, and do your deals and magic, and oh yeah, I got 10,000, 20,000 off the price. Awesome. I got some new carpet. I got some new paint. Whatever. Here's where we are in the last 4 years, and this number is keep in mind nationwide. Here in North Texas, it's even worse than that right now, and that's an average for the whole year. I know that we are under a month still in the DFW area. So that being said, supply and demand means what? If you even took basic economics, which it sounds like a lot of our politicians have not, even though they have economics degrees, some of them. Supply and demand curves do this. Here's your demand, here's your supply. At some point, they're going to cross. It's called the equilibrium. That's where your price should be. But what actually happens when demand stays the same, supply is changing, supply is lower, that makes the price change. The price is going to increase with less supply. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk on economics. And I say that half jokingly, but it sounds like certain people, like Ted Cruz, if you listen to him or read his Twitter, which I think is the only reason I have Twitter, is to give him crap at least once a week. I know he knows how supply and demand works. He's not stupid. But he's banking on the fact that you do not. So, now you do. If also you would like an economics lesson on inflation, I may do that for you next week. Because obviously it's not going to change. Losing my voice. Sorry. Okay, there is our real estate stuff for today. That's only political stuff I'm going to talk about, mentioning our friend Ted Cruz, other than reminding you to go and vote. I posted a video the other day about how voting affects your house. And a couple people didn't quite understand it. But taxes affects your house, right? If you are a property owner or even a renter, you're paying property taxes. Who determines those property taxes? Elected officials do, in most cases. So here in Texas, we already have a primary going on right now. They're the two main political parties. Starting this past Monday, and our primary is on March 1st. And the people involved in these elections determine our property taxes quite greatly. Texas has one of the highest property tax rates in the country. So you are going to want to actually elect people that can help you with your property taxes. Why is Texas property tax so high? Because it is funding education. Why is it funding education? Because we don't have a state income tax for enough of a corporate tax. There's other areas that can be taxed and be fair to fund education other than taxing your house. And if you don't believe me on the rates for property tax, and I'm even going to show you that our tax in Texas is even higher than that of California. Now, a lot of you are racing to get out of California, coming to Texas because you think it's Mecca, the promised land for no regulation and low taxes. It's not true. Sorry. I don't know who told you that, but bear with me because I don't have the chart in front of me. All right. I hate to use this mortgage company's because they're going to give me too many pop-ups while they're doing it. Let me share my screen so you can see. Just ignore the fact that it's from Rocket Mortgage. By the way, don't use these big national mortgage companies to buy your house. Reason being, you're just another number to them, and if you're in a bid situation or closing fast, they're not going to respond to you in a timely manner. Even, the closing credit right here, it's nothing. So it has a list. This is the same list as I've seen in the other website I was going to show you. So this will work. 1 to 51, 1 being the lowest property tax rate. This is effective rate. It's not exactly, the rate for the whole state. All states vary by location. But surprisingly enough, Hawaii comes in with the lowest tax rate in the country for real estate, even though their home prices are high, relatively high compared to some others, $615. But you're only paying $606 a year in property tax. And, most people think, oh, well, the South is all cheap property taxes. Not necessarily. You do get Alabama in here. Colorado is not in the South. Louisiana is. DC is not the South. South Carolina gets a lot of good press on low taxes, but here, Delaware is not the South. Nevada, Wyoming, Utah, Arizona, they're not southern states. Well, you keep going down this list. Where's Texas? Oh, there's California already. And you're saying to yourself, well, I thought California was such high taxes and such expensive real estate. The real estate is expensive, yes, in most cities, which again, you're paying for location. Because as you can see in the state of California, the average price for a house is $505,000. Doesn't mean you're getting one in the middle of LA or San Francisco for $505. But that is the average in the state. And the average property tax rate is 0.76%. Why? Because they're not funding all of their education system with property taxes. They have income tax, they have, whatever other taxes that people that live in California don't like, which is why they're racing to come to Texas. But, you have your trade-offs. Let's find Texas on here. We're still going. We're still going. Still going. There we are. 7th worst in the country. Still, we have cheap real estate, and this is based on, I'm pretty sure it's 2020 pricing. Let me see. May actually be 2021. I don't think that's true. We'll say it's 2020, but tax rates haven't changed. And most of the country has all increased the same amount. So for tax purposes, tax rate purposes, this is still correct. 1.8. If you were living somewhere else, you're still, you could get a home for under 200 somewhere in Texas, not DFW, which can. Still paying close to $4,000 a year just in property tax. So take that money, apply it somewhere else, and you could buy more house somewhere else, or even you could buy more house here in Texas. It's trade-offs, people. What's worse? You can have it come out of your income, you can have it come out of your house. You're still going to pay for it, but would you rather have a bigger house? Most people would. And my home state of New Jersey sitting here at 2.49. How people afford to live there, I really can't quite understand. We left permanently or my grandmother left permanently in 1998 or 97, 98. Me and my mother left in 87. That's crazy. The amount of property tax. What they're funding in New Jersey, I'm not quite sure with the 2.49. I know it's a lot going on in that budget for such a small state, but there's a lot of people in that state. So what's going on with that? Someone from New Jersey that lives there now can explain it to me if they want to, for everyone else's benefit. But again, this is 1.8 in Texas because our school system is being funded that way. So there's some more real estate stuff for you, some tax stuff. Those rates do come down. There's a certain person running for re-election right now who likes to tout lowering the tax rate every year or keeping it the same. Hey, I did that myself too several years ago. I brought down the tax rate. Guess what? I was able to do that because prices on homes went up, the value of homes, which means your house is worth more. You can still tax the same and still make more money bringing it in. So your tax bill is still going up. Just means the rate is lower. Now, you could have left the rate the same and you'd be paying a lot more. In my situation where I was an elected official, we didn't need to, we didn't have the services to pay for, and there was no need to take everyone's money, so we didn't. At a county level, there is. And living here in Collin County, one of the richest counties in Texas, honestly shouldn't be talking about lowering tax rates or lowering tax bills when we have deficits and hiring sheriff's deputies. We don't have a publicly funded hospital, nor do we really have a health department that's legit. Some people want to argue that we do. I would argue that we do not. The one we do have is run by a nurse, not someone with a master's in public health like our adjacent counties. So before I go off on a tangent on healthcare here, that's partly to do with, hey, again, why we're not paying so much somewhere else in taxes for something. You get what you pay for here. So that's really all I had to talk about today. I see one person watching, but it's probably another Russian bot because they posted almost the same thing. Get Russian bots on YouTube. I don't know why. I don't know the purpose of posting what they post. It's gibberish. Sorry, I like Ukraine better. We all do here. Sorry, Russia bots. Okay, going to get off of here for now. I hope those of you that see this or did see it enjoyed learning about our mortgage rates, how it is not a housing bubble, why Ted Cruz sucks, and local tax rates. If you have any questions, leave them again in the chat comments. I will see them later on Facebook and YouTube if you do the comments, so I can respond to them later. Or just message me, go to my website. If you're not on Facebook, you can contact me there as well. And everyone have a great afternoon and the rest of your week. And I will see you all next Thursday. Have a great day.